Chelsea over the last 2 decades have been known for their win-at-all-cost approach under Roman Abramovich, whether it be in the form of league titles, or domestic cup runs, or even European Cup runs. They've always found a way to remain in the thick of things when it comes to silverware. And as a result, a lot of pragmatic managers have found their home at Chelsea. The likes of Jose Mourinho, Rafa Benitez, Carlo Ancelotti, Thomas Tuchel, Antonio Conte, just to name a few managers who've had success at Chelsea. So it's a bit of a eyebrow raiser one club co-owner, Todd Boehly, went and appointed Graham Potter as the new Chelsea manager back in September 2022. Potter is widely regarded as a project manager, somebody who likes to implement his ideas onto the team, sacrificing results in the beginning, hoping they come later. This is a whole shift in strategy from Chelsea's success first approach, one which didn't even last half a year before it backfired massively. Hello everyone, my name is Samuel, welcome back to the channel, and for the first time, I can safely say it's not been a while. That's because this is my 1 week break from uni, so I can take some time off and make this video. Second thing, last video the audio quality was trash. That's because I had the wrong settings and I didn't bother to change it because it was a 2-hour recording, it was a 20-minute video, I was really tired, my vocal cords were f***ed. So I didn't want to re-record it, so I just published what I have, so I do apologize for it. And thirdly, before we get into the video, as always, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, all that good stuff, and let's get right into the video. The sacking of Thomas Tuchel came as a surprise to most Chelsea fans, even though it was on the cards for some time. The poor form at the end of the 2021-22 season, as well as the poor start to this season after a huge backing in the market, meant that Thomas Tuchel got the boot after losing 1-0 to Dinamo Zagreb in Croatia. But reports after his sacking suggest that it was not due to performances on the pitch, but rather due to a clash of heads with the club CEO, Todd Boehly. You see, Boehly wanted to bring in Al Nassr forward Cristiano Ronaldo, and Thomas Tuchel was highly against it, and the two never saw eye to eye after that, and Thomas Tuchel paid the price with his job. A sacking this early meant that it was really hard to get a replacement in, because all the top tier managers are at their respective clubs and it was really hard to buy their contracts out, and most of them are pretty reluctant to move, which is a bit of a problem. So what does Boehly do? You guessed it, he goes and bullies a lesser Premier League team. As if taking the player of the season Marco Cucurella wasn't enough, Todd Boehly goes back to Brighton and took their manager. Not just their manager, their entire coaching staff. Brighton were on a high at the time in the European places. At one point they were even in the Champions League places. So it was panic station for them when they lose their entire coaching staff to a team which was below them in the table. But more on them later. Like I was saying, back at Chelsea, Todd Boehly was so impressed by Graham Potter that he appointed him as the new Chelsea manager in September of 2022 for the rest of the season and far beyond. Graham Potter definitely belongs in the journeyman category when it comes to football, with his roots going as far back as the technical director of the Ghanaian women's national team. His first managerial gig came in Sweden when he took over 4th tier side. How the f do I pronounce this? Östersund, and he eventually led them into Europe, even facing Arsenal at one point. He then had a stint at Swansea before moving to Brighton, where the majority of his managerial plaudits came in. Playing an eye-catching football at the best of times, Potter had Brighton regularly finishing mid-table, but never really breaking into the top sides until this season, when everything just sort of clicked. Brighton had an amazing start to the season, and they were as high as 4th when Potter left them for Chelsea. So this was a well-deserved move for Graham Potter, albeit it was in the middle of a season. And it did start off really well. A double over Milan in the Champions League, as well as a win against Salzburg and a draw against Manchester United. He started off his tenure with a 9-game unbeaten run, but things were about to take a turn for the Englishman. And as fate would have it, the club to draw first blood was none other than the team he ditched Chelsea for. After a win in Austria, the Blues travelled to the Amex Stadium, where they were welcomed by their manager's former team in a rather hostile fashion. They were, booed to say the least. Brighton were slightly fortunate that they had a 2-week break after Potter's last game in charge, largely due to the Queen's passing, rest in peace, and railway strikes, so they could finish up their process of hiring a new manager, as former Shakhtar Donetsk manager Roberto De Zerbi was handed the keys. And although they've carried on some good work that's been done by Potter, at this point it's largely been hot or cold. But that was about to change. A 4-0 thumping in any stretch of the imagination is a huge result against Chelsea, and it got them back on track. The same can't be said for Chelsea, as that started a run of 6 defeats in 8 league games either side of the World Cup. They were also knocked out of both the domestic cups. Not only top clubs like Arsenal and City, but lesser Premier League clubs like Villa and Fulham were nicking wins off of them. I'm not talking nicking wins actually, let me rephrase that. Were outplaying them and getting wins. Another 300 million spent in the January window did no favours, as Chelsea kept flirting with the bottom half of the table and eventually fell into it, and Potter paid the price as he was not able to cast any more magic spells and was banished. Do they banish in Harry Potter? I don't know. I haven't watched Harry Potter in a while, okay? At the end of the day, Graham Potter did definitely do trash at Chelsea. 4 wins and 19 at one point. It was unacceptable at any level, let alone at the club he's managing. And the worst part is, he didn't look like winning any of the games he didn't either. For instance, the 1-1 draw against Nottingham Forest, Chelsea were closer to losing than they were to winning. Yeah, sure, you could argue that they underperformed their XG, but it's an issue that's been following Potter since his Brighton days. It's not a case of get a striker and you'll be fine, because the chances they always get are usually from suboptimal positions. It's not high quality chances, even though it's high XG. It's a weird thing to say, but it is a thing. And it's a fundamental issue for all Graham Potter's sides. Even though Potter did definitely do a trash job, and I would put a lot of the blame on him, I wouldn't put all the blame on Potter, because even though they spent a lot on the market, a lot of it is just scattergun approach from Todd Bowley. Like, how are they signing Koulibaly and Badiashile, 2 left-sided centre-backs, 6 months from one another, when Levi Colwill's there, and he's probably ready to start for Chelsea within a year? Why are you signing Marco Garella for 60 million when Ben Chilwell was there? You need an understudy, not a whole new left back. Why are you signing Enzo Fernandez, somebody who excels as an 8, or at least with a 6 next to him, when you're going to sell Jorginho, your only midfielder capable of playing as a 6, that too to a direct rival? And sure, Kante Enzo can work, but I would like to have the option of a 6 worst case scenario. Why are you signing Aubameyang if you're just gonna freeze him out? Also, them signing a whole new front 3 for over £100 million is hilarious when you consider that they also signed David Datro Fofana in the same window, Sterling the window before, and then Kunku in the window after. By after, I mean the 2023 summer window. I'm not saying don't sign any of these players. Potter did need reinforcements in the January window. He was starting to struggle with the crop of players that were there in the first place. But signing this many players, there's a line between having a deep squad and having a bloated squad. Potter's Chelsea is so far beyond the line that you can't pull him back with a fucking grappling hook. Bowley's approach in the transfer window was ridiculous. But what's more ridiculous is his approach to get Graham Potter to Chelsea. Earlier in the video, I mentioned about how he bought out Potter's contract. Wanna know how much he paid Brighton? 20 million plus. And you wanna know how much Potter earned? 12 million a year. The 6th highest earning manager in the world. Bear in mind, this is for Potter's first big job. So this approach is completely unwarranted. Also, you gotta remember that Brighton under Potter, between their periods of brilliant football, struggled for rhythm badly. And as a result, they always struggle to win 10 games a season. Actually, they've not done it barring one season, and Potter was there for 3 full seasons. That was also the one season where they finished in the top half and wasn't flirting with the bottom 3 at any point during the season. Not only was it a shift in strategy from the original traditions at Chelsea, It was a shift in strategy for somebody who was a suspect option for them at best, and one who ultimately was out of his depth for this club. That doesn't make him a bad manager though. I'd like to think that Graham Potter can redeem himself and rebuild his career elsewhere, but that will take time. David Moyes was swallowed whole by the United job within 1 year, and it took him up until the West Ham job nearly a whole decade later for him to find any success. The likes of Brendan Rodgers, Unai Emery were laughing stocks in the Premier League and had to go outside to Scotland and Spain respectively to rebuild their careers before they came back to the Premier League and have success. A manager is not meant to manage every club in the world. He has his own floor, his own ceiling, his own style, and unfortunately Chelsea is far beyond the reach of Graham Potter's ceiling, and as a result it was a relationship doomed from the very beginning. That's it for the video. Thank you all for watching, and yeah, this is a shift in strategy as well for me from my usual videos, which are more investigative videos. This is more topical videos. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you do like this, do give it a like, click subscribe, turn on the post notifications so that you don't miss any of my future stuff, and as always, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.